Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Marketing in the Post-COVID Age of Consumerism webinar. We're right at the top of the hour, and we've got quite a bit to get through today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we'll let some people trickle in as the time goes on. You may have joined us for our last series of HR Town Hall webinars, where we had representation across the board from iVet360 team members in both HR and training and finance and analytics, as well as marketing. And as promised, we have put together a full hour that is a deeper dive into the strategies for marketing your practice in the post-COVID consumer landscape. My name is Kate Godshall, and I will be with you this afternoon. I am a Senior Marketing Manager at iVet360. I'll be walking you through the webinar, talking about some tools and practices that you should already be utilizing in your practice right now, as well as looking at some main pillars of focus that you'll want to look at heading out of COVID-19 that will set your practice up for success in the months to come. In addition, we also have Drew Vandenberg, who's our Managing Director of Marketing, manning the questions feed. You're welcome to ask questions as we go through the presentation, and Drew will do his best to answer as many as possible. Please be sure that you're asking the questions in the questions tab of your control panel. Instead of raising your hand, if you raise your hand, we won't see you. So in addition to the live questions feed, we also have some curated questions and answers at the end of the presentation that include a few frequently asked questions that we received from the registration. I also want to draw your attention to a couple of attachments under the handouts tab in the control panel as well. These include guidelines and recommendations for selecting a social media manager in your practice, as well as a marketing success checklist. So both of these items you can download from the control panel, and I'll reference them later on in the presentation, but they'll also be available for download along with the slides from today's presentation at the COVID-19 site, as well as emailed to registrants after the webinar is complete. So let's go ahead and take a look at the presentation today. Before we jump into the marketing piece, just to give you a little bit more about iVet360 and what we do. If you've joined us on previous town hall webinars, you're probably quite familiar with our HR and training services. But at iVet360, our model is based on a holistic three-prong approach for optimizing practice performance in the areas of HR and training, marketing, as well as finance and analytics. So we offer these services as standalones, but we see by far and large that the most successful practices that we work with are those that utilize all three of these services together. While marketing can significantly increase your hospital's presence and accelerate your new client growth, maintaining the excellent client service with our HR and training, as well as a unified staff, and then maintaining optimal operational health of your practice with our finance and analytics is essentially the key to closing that marketing loop and ensuring that you're maximizing revenue from new client growth and converting those clients into long-term champions for your practice. So if you're interested in learning more about who we are and what we do, I encourage you to visit iVet360.com. Okay. As we dive into this, first let's take a quick look at the impact of COVID-19 and how it's impacted our industry. You guys are probably all very acutely aware of how quickly and significantly your practice was impacted in the last 6 to 8 weeks as a result of the crisis. But let's take a quick look at some of the industry-wide data, which actually is all available on our COVID-19 resources website. So the industry as a whole saw a huge decline in transactions and revenue from mid-March through mid-April. Duh, we all saw that, right? Boarding, grooming, and dentistry were the revenue categories most significantly impacted, with dentals down about 33% and boarding down actually a whopping 88% in April of 2020. The good news, however, is that since the end of April, hopefully you guys have experienced this, we started to see these negative daily trends start to turn the corner a bit. And just in the last couple of weeks, as various states across the country are starting to implement guidelines for reopening, we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. So daily trends for May 12th of 2020, we're actually seeing transactions down, but seeing growth compared to this time last year in revenue, average transaction charge, and new clients. Month over month trends, however, still show some negative growth overall in transactions and revenue, but positive growth in average transaction charge and new clients. Now, if we take a look at the year to date, trends for both our IVET 360 hospitals compared to the national industry numbers, we find that IVET 360 hospitals were able to weather the storm a little better than industry average. And again, like I mentioned, those practices that were utilizing all three of our service delivery areas saw the best performance through the crisis so far, compared to negative growth. So if we look at the industry numbers as a whole, both revenue and new clients, our IVET 360 hospital saw positive growth in both of these categories, maintaining about 2.5% in revenue and 3.2% in new clients compared to prior year to date, as opposed to the industry that was down in both of those areas. So part of the driving factor behind maintaining this growth through the pandemic was really powered by the tools and strategies that we're going to dive a little bit deeper into and talk about today. But before we can jump into strategy, we first have to understand what has changed, right? Better understand how COVID-19 has fundamentally changed the way that you guys are all doing business right now. And again, this is probably a no-brainer. You have experienced this firsthand in your practice, but things happened very quickly in most parts of the country. And chances are you may have found yourself struggling to keep up. But we're finding the key to success during any crisis, specifically the pandemic that we're currently in, is being able to quickly and effectively adapt to a rapidly changing situation. And not only adapting, but making sure that you're effectively communicating these changes and continuing to engage your clients during the crisis. Coronavirus has also forced many of practices, whether you want it to or not, to embrace technology and likely stretch your client service in a way that you never thought was possible. So perhaps through telemedicine or video chatting, adding texting as a communication tool, or even just presenting treatment plans over the phone as opposed to in person, we significantly changed how we're interacting with our clients. The crisis has also significantly shifted consumer behaviors, and this is an important point that we're going to take a look at later on as well. And it's changed the way that consumers are interacting with brands and how they're consuming goods and services. So if you've paid any attention to any media recently, you've noticed that this shift in consumer engagement is present across all platforms and all industries. More important to note moving forward, though, is that with COVID-19 has created a global expectation for this new way in which we're communicating and interacting with each other. It's possible for us to conduct a business remotely and virtually, just like we're doing today. And this expectation is going to likely persist well beyond COVID-19 and will need to be something that's incorporated into your marketing and engagement strategy moving forward. And finally, last point here, in a time where corporate consolidation in our industry is at its highest, we know now more than ever that a strong systematic strategy and really a data-driven approach is the key for small, independently owned and operated practices to stay competitive in your market against large corporate consolidation groups. So in a nutshell, coronavirus has shown us that we can't really afford to be slow to respond anymore. We need to be ready for a changing world, and that an objective and holistic approach is really going to optimize our practice performance. Okay, so real quickly, what is on your crisis checklist? So this is what you should already be doing. And a few of these things we've already covered in previous marketing webinars, so we'll go through this quickly. So what does your checklist look like? You should have and likely already shifted to hands-free or low contact client interactions. And you may actually be in a state where you are starting to make the shift back and looking at ways to incorporate bringing clients back into your lobby safely and effectively. You likely took advantage of some online tools for client communication like video conferencing or telemedicine, and you're probably heavily promoting your online pharmacy and compliance to maintain revenue from online prescription medication sales as well. You are also managing your digital presence. So you're making sure that you're quickly communicating changes in the hospital protocols, updating your business hours, taking advantage of special COVID-19 advisory tools so that you can communicate the changes that happened early on and likely now changes that are happening again as you're shifting towards starting to operate more quote unquote business as usual in some areas, really taking advantage of that digital presence and making sure that it's updated. Some of you also have learned that you really should be monitoring your online reputation. So the main reputation sites like Google, Yelp, Nextdoor, and Facebook Reputation really begins within the practice and maintaining client service standards through a crisis. And one of the ways to do that is really effectively communicating changes in protocol to avoid frustrated clients. Some of the review options like Google had temporarily suspended reviews early on, although we saw today that some of those reviews are starting to show back up in the Google My Business platform. But you want to make sure that you're always checking your online reputation, crisis or not. You always want to make sure you're responding to those negative reviews quickly if they arise. 75% of prospective clients that are looking at your practice as an option are going to look at your online reputation before they make the decision to come see you. And finally, likely you guys are hopefully actively engaging your community and your clients through consistent communications, whether it's newsletters, your reminder platform, or your social media channel. This is, again, especially relevant right now that we're starting to come out of local restrictions in some states. Your content should really include updates of changes, again, in operations or services, reiteration of safety protocol, availability of services, as well as positive hospital stories across your social media channel. And we'll dive a little bit more into this in just a little bit. So positioning your practice for success, right? We saw many practices already had to make major shifts in service delivery protocols, but it's important to note that these changes should not necessarily be viewed as short-term solutions. Much of what you guys did should be incorporated into your service delivery moving out of the COVID-19 crisis and likely implemented permanently. The data that we looked at the start of the webinar showed us that even during the pandemic, there's opportunity for new client growth. Many small practices have either shut their doors or reduced their hours, which means competition in your market has likely decreased. That, coupled with increase in pet adoptions across the country, means that there's new patients out there needing care. And the question is, how are you going to ensure that they come to you? And what we're going to look at are these 5 post-pandemic pillars of marketing success, and really 5 areas of focus that you guys should be focusing on now moving out of the coronavirus pandemic. Those are safety, flexibility, accessibility, innovation, and community. So first off, we have safety. This is the topic that's top of mind for everyone right now as states are starting to ease restrictions and businesses are starting to open. So how are you going to prioritize client safety heading out of the immediate COVID-19 crisis? As businesses are starting to open back slowly, people are starting to come together, they're interacting with each other more frequently. Clients will want to know how you're planning on not only keeping their pets safe, but keeping them safe while they visit your practice. So a recent Pew Research Center poll came out last week. It actually tells us right now that 2/3 of Americans, or about 68%, are still concerned that states are opening back up too quickly. So there are a good number of clients that are going to be very hesitant to want to sit in your lobby with 10 other people, sit in a tiny exam room with a doctor and a technician and maybe part of a family, knowing that the coronavirus is still definitely alive and well, potentially in the community. So the pandemic has really created a heightened awareness for safety. So cleanliness and germs are top of mind. And there's a new expectation for client safety standards in your practice. We're all eager to get back to a new normal for operating our businesses, but as you start to open up your practice over the next several weeks, depending on what your community is allowing, you really need to challenge yourself as practice owners and practice managers to put aside any notion that people are being ridiculous or overly sensitive, or even overacting to concerns that states are lifting restrictions too quickly, because this is the reality of the situation and where your clients are at. So put personal opinion aside and make sure that you're operating in the best interest of your clients and your staff. Even though that we're heading out of the initial crisis, it may not mean that it's completely over. So you should be prepared and planning for potential rolling stay-at-home orders or additional shelter-in-place orders, depending on where you're at, if the virus flares up in certain communities or regions. So as the situation evolves, above all else, make sure that you're quickly communicating these changes to clients and promoting these safety protocols and services that you're retaining as we're heading out of post-COVID-19 for client peace of mind. So a client example that we have here, I work with an Atlanta area hospital who is maintaining curbside pickup. They're maintaining a closed lobby through the end of June, despite being one of the first states to implement the reopening process in the state of Georgia, because they feel that's what's best for their practice and for their clients. So what do you do now? Definitely expect COVID-19 protocols in some capacity or another to continue for at least 3 to 6 months after restrictions in your community are lifted. So this doesn't mean that you're adhering to strict curbside pickup protocols only, but making sure that you're offering that as an option for clients will be key. So clients are going to expect that you're still rigorously adhering to increased cleaning and safety protocols, as well as requiring staff to wear PPE when interacting with clients, and potentially also asking clients to wear their own mask and face covering when they're in the hospital and interacting with your staff. So remember that maintaining these protocols is equally for the safety of your staff and the ability to maintain practice operations as it is for the safety of your clients. So it goes both ways. Definitely take the time now to develop your safety SOPs for both operations and communications. Clearly define the process for maintaining these safety standards in the practice and how you're going to communicate them to your clients. Even right now, take this time to survey your clients to better understand what they need from you and your practice to feel safe and to continue using your services. You can utilize free survey tools out there. There's quite a few. SurveyMonkey is one, Survey Planet, or even a simple Google form, all free, to send a quick survey to your clients, and make sure if you're sending a survey that you keep it under 10 questions if you want folks to actually answer it. The next pillar we're going to take a look at is flexibility. So with client safety prioritized, you can then focus on the flexibility of your practice. This is how you're going to stay ahead of your competition, right? Maintaining your flexibility post-COVID is going to be critical. It's unlikely that you're going to go back to business as usual immediately, and there likely will be several rounds of changes as your community fully transitions out of the pandemic. So being nimble is what's going to allow you to stay ahead of that competition. Take the time to plan for a proactive approach right now. Don't waste time on being reactive. We know that with our iVet360 clients, that those were proactive when the pandemic hit saw much less revenue and new client loss than those that took a reactive approach. So another client example here, a New Orleans area practice proactively implemented curbside pickup and actually split their staff into 2 teams before state mandates were instituted. They quickly communicated these changes to clients and actually saw a 40% increase in new clients and a 14% increase in revenue in March and April when compared to the prior year. So how can you ensure success at your practice? You can take action now by establishing a strong chain of command in your hospital so that you can make decisions quickly and efficiently. This is a huge benefit of being a privately owned practice, and flexibility is going to set you apart from corporate groups who struggle with red tape that clogs up their decision making. So just like with hospital operations, you want to plan SOPs for your client communications as well. Make sure everybody's on the same page and develop various client communications based on changes in protocols at your practice. So when a change is made, have a policy in place that client communication regarding the change goes out quickly to avoid any confusion and client frustration, and make sure you adhere to that policy. Another tip is make sure that your critical information is centralized, including all the logins for your business listings and client communication tools. How many of you out there struggle to find your login for your Google listing and your Yelp page to adjust your hours or add those advisories when the pandemic hit? You can identify a team member that could be trusted with client communications. This includes designating a social media manager and collaborating with this person on your client communications and guidelines. Be sure that you're not choosing the youngest and most tech-savvy person in your practice. They're not necessarily the best fit to be the social media manager, even if they fully understand social media challenges and practices. Remember that this person's going to have control over your brand in the social space and a direct connection and voice for your hospital in the community. So this should be a trusted team member that has not only an interest and familiarity with social media, but also has the basic skills to successfully do the job. So we've attached, again, in the handout section, some tips for designating your social media manager. This document includes an outline of the skills and abilities suggested for the role, as well as some guidelines for how this team member will juggle these duties with other roles that they may have in the practice. And finally, if you can, identify and invest in a trusted partner. As a practice manager and a practice owner, you don't have time to worry about a lot of these things. And there's a reason that the year-to-date numbers in the beginning of this presentation show that IVET360 hospitals maintained positive growth through this pandemic, because we are trusted partners and part of the practice team that can take a great deal of this worry off the plates of practice owners and practice managers so that they can focus on maintaining flexibility in patient care and client care standards and hospital operations. So if you're not in a position to be able to have an outside partner like IVET360, no worries. Then make sure you delegate these duties internally to staff members you trust. You, as an owner and a manager, cannot do it all. Okay. Our next pillar, accessibility. When you've established a flexible practice, it's going to allow you to be nimble in the market. Now you want to ensure that your practice is accessible. So this is the most beefy category. We'll go through this a little more slowly so that you guys have a chance to absorb it all. With the shift in consumer behaviors from coronavirus, this is important now more than ever to make sure that your practice is accessible. First off, you want to make sure that you are easily found and accessed. Be searchable. Be easy to find. Don't create an additional barrier to new clients by making information about your practice and services hard to find. Be sure that you offer multiple ways for your clients to connect and communicate with you. The easier you are to find and connect with, the more likely that you are going to be able to attract new clients and stay connected with them in the long run to increase retention and combat attrition. If you are looking to attract a younger and more affluent demographic, which is one of the number one things that I hear from clients all the time, you have to make sure that you're meeting them in the communication space that they prefer. And believe it or not, if they're under 40, that's not the good old-fashioned telephone. So having a variety of digital communications allows you to quickly connect with these clients while also freeing up phone lines for more critical communications. With the coronavirus pandemic, there's now, again, like I mentioned, this global expectation for communication and for accessibility when it comes to goods and services. We've seen all of the commercials going on. You can practically get anything delivered, ordered online, curbside pickup, and that's all because of this shift in consumer behavior that we're seeing because of the pandemic. In many cases, it's preferred and even more efficient. So not only are clients more receptive to virtual patient care options, we may find that they prefer it in months to come. And as a practice owner or manager, your staff may be telling you that they actually prefer as well curbside pickup and drop-off services. So be prepared to continue to offer these things in the months to come and in the future. Another quick client example of embracing technology to continue patient care during the pandemic is a local hospital here in Portland, Oregon, where we're located, that implemented telemedicine service right at the start of the pandemic and actually saw a 14% increase in new clients and generated a little over $3,000 in revenue for the practice during that time through consultation fees only. So not including any additional medications or services that were recommended during the telemedicine consult. If your practice implemented telemedicine options as a result and a response to coronavirus, you should definitely have plans to continue and build off that service post COVID-19. And finally, make sure that you're also factoring in the financial accessibility of your services and consider the economic impact that the crisis has had on your clients. You know the impact that it's had on you and your practice and your staff, but keep in mind that your clients are going through the same thing. 1 in 5 Americans right now filed for unemployment benefits since the start of the pandemic. So now more than ever, your clients are going to be looking for ways to stretch their dollars even further. So circling back to the top of this slide, when we're talking about make your practice searchable, what exactly do we mean? And we're talking about maximizing your searchability quotient. And this can be easily described as how easy it is and exactly for clients to find out who you are, where you are, and what you do. If we look at your searchability quotient, we can break it down into really four main sections, which are all in the digital space. The first is your website. And with your website comes search engine optimization, or how much clear and complete information your website is giving to Google or other search engines, but let's be honest, Google is the king, about your practice and your products and services so that you show up on the Google search engine results page in a position that is recognizable. We know that only 18.5% of veterinary practices have basic SEO elements installed on the back end of the website. This is actually down from 2017, where we saw 36% of veterinary websites had this information. So interesting, likely the advent of that quote unquote do-it-yourself website platform like Wix, or even discount web providers that promise cheap websites that may be beautiful on the front end but are woefully insufficient on the back end when it comes to SEO, is likely the cause of that dip from that 36 to 18.5. In addition to basic SEO on their website, we know that only 12% of veterinary hospitals are actually running any search engine marketing like Google Ads right now. And less than 40% have a claimed and engaged social presence, and only 25% are actually using online booking options connected to their Google My Business profile. So not optimizing many of these options, some of which are free, makes you less searchable and decreases that searchability quotient. It is making you harder to find to your clients. The reason that we actually know this is because we put out a veterinary benchmark marketing report. So we release it at the end of every year. 2019 is available right now. We've released the report for the past 3 years that actually analyzes the digital presence of over 1,000 accredited hospitals from all 50 states and compiles about 37,000 data points with year-over-year growth rates in critical areas related to that searchability quotient that we talked about. And what we find is that most practices are not maximizing their online presence and being left out of critical online searches by not utilizing these online tools, again, many of which are free. So if you're interested in what those 37 data points are included in the report, we make this available free to practices to show all veterinary hospitals essentially where they're at. So not only can you download this report, but we'll also give you a free digital assessment and let you know where your searchability quotient for your practice specifically currently stands and what you need to look for when increasing that searchability quotient or even selecting a marketing provider. So you can request this information pretty quickly at vet360.com under the About tab and the Veterinary Marketing Benchmark Report. Okay, continuing on with accessibility tools. So in addition to increasing your searchability quotient, you want to make sure that you're bringing your client tools online to make your services even more accessible to clients. So online appointment requests, either through a reminder app, a patient portal, or even a simple web form, offers a really easy and convenient way for clients to schedule appointments and communicate with your reception staff, again, in that communication space that they prefer. Also online options for new client forms, prescription refill requests, and even having an online pharmacy. We talked about this already, and quick links to food delivery programs, whether you're working with Hills to Home or Purina Vet Direct. Making these accessible and easy for clients is a quick, easy, and painless way for them to interact with the services that you offer, and it's potentially even easier on your staff. We've already talked about shifting and bringing patient visits and consultations to the online space with telemedicine or either teleconferencing platforms. So make sure that you are increasing those and adding those and continuing them if you've already added telemedicine or virtual visits to this point. You also want to make sure that you are offering hands-free options when it comes to payments. And this may not seem like something that is significant, but if clients have the option to pay for services without touching a pen, without touching a clipboard, without touching a counter, this is going to be important for them from that safety perspective moving forward. So options like Apple Pay or Google Pay or even online payment portals. So another client example is we actually had the iVet 360 team add a secure online payment gateway to their website so they could handle hand-free payments during the pandemic. So they could direct clients to their website to pay for their services without having to sanitize credit cards from person to person, or again, bring their own pen or really touch anything in the lobby or that was being brought out to them in their car. So in less than 30 days, they processed over $6,000 in payments in this payments portal, and even reconciled overdue accounts by quickly and easily sending clients that were overdue an easy and safe payment option online. So again, like we mentioned, also make sure that you are recognizing the need for financial accessibility to your services. This is going to be paramount for clients post-COVID. Partnering with and communicating any credit-based payment options that you guys offer in your practice, like Care Credit, Scratch Pay, Quad Pay. This is going to make your services more accessible to the financially strapped client. So if you have these options, make sure that you are actively communicating them to clients and they know that these are credit-based payment options that you accept in your practice. This is also a great opportunity to promote any in-house wellness plans that you have that will help piece out the cost of annual pet care on a monthly payment schedule that is easier for clients to handle over the course of 12 months. This will also help your practice capture a reliable source of revenue every month from those wellness plan payments. Okay. So this brings us to our fourth pillar, innovation. Innovation is likely something that you've heard before and it may have written off in your practice. But really, when we talk about innovation, we're talking about how are you embracing change and welcoming innovation into your practice. You've likely heard it before, but post-COVID, it's going to be even more important. And for an industry that's historically been resistant to change and embracing technology, you really can't afford to be resistant to these new concepts and technologies any further. So you want to make sure that you're listening to your clients for what they're asking for when it comes to technology. So don't create, again, unnecessary barriers between you and potential clients by being unwilling to adopt technology into your practice. Technology in post-COVID is going to be a differentiator for you in your practice, and it's going to be something that sets you apart from your competition. Telemedicine options, online payments, online forms and appointment scheduling, reminder apps. These are all technology pieces that clients in post-COVID are really going to see as differentiators and something that potentially is going to set you apart and bring those new clients to you instead of your competitors. Oftentimes in this industry as well, we rely on feelings. Decisions are made on gut feelings, but instead, post-COVID, you really need to rely on data and facts to drive your decision making. Data is going to show you what's working and what isn't. It's going to make you more efficient with your marketing dollars, and it's going to essentially cut to the chase and get you where you need to be in terms of marketing. You can use that data to focus on promotional offers that drive results and will work better to help you recapture that revenue that was lost during the pandemic. So free nail trims may not necessarily be a promotional offer that drives results, but something that we do know drives results that many practices are adverse to is that free first exam. And it is not a four-letter word. Sometimes when we bring up free first exam, I can physically hear doctors cringing on the other side of the phone. But in post-COVID consumer landscape, the opportunity for a risk-free chance to make a meaningful connection with a new veterinarian is really going to be your opportunity as a practice to shine for new clients. We hear it all the time from practices that free first exam promotions aren't worth it. They don't produce the type of quality clients that you want and that the practice is looking for. But really, after pulling the data from hospitals that we were working with that were running free first exam promotions, again, not a gut feeling, but the data told us a different story. One of the biggest concerns or arguments that we hear against free first exam promotions is that the result in clients that it brings in clients that don't have what we consider a monetary or a long-term monetary value. They get their free first exam and they bounce. But in reality, the data shows us that the average revenue from clients that took advantage of the free first exam differed from those that didn't take the free first exam by only $1. There was a difference of $1 between free first exam clients and non-free first exam clients. We also hear very often that clients who take advantage of free first exams are disloyal. They may come in that one time, buy some flea and tick preventative, and then never come back because they don't find a value in your service. But again, data tells us the reality here is that they do return, with upwards of 75% of them coming back in the first 15 months. So in fact, one of the benefits of working with iVet360 is that we have access to an analytics department that can run data to determine if a free first exam promotion is working for your specific hospital. So in another client example here is that we ran the data on a Chicago area hospital that is running a free first exam promotion and found that within the first year, the first 10 months, they showed an 8.12% increase in overall practice revenue, with a 24% increase in revenue specifically from new clients alone. And they had nearly a 77% increase in overall new clients. But what does that mean relative to the pandemic? Well, this practice continued their free first exam through the coronavirus pandemic in a consumer landscape with reduced competition, increased pet adoptions. Pet owners in their market were looking for options for their pets and came across this practice that was also quick to adjust their hospital protocols. They maintained their accessibility in the market by continuing their digital advertising through the pandemic and the free first exam promotion. And they maintained positive revenue growth through the pandemic with record-breaking new client numbers in March and April, and a 45% increase in new client growth when compared to the prior year to date. So not only do we know that that free first exam promotion works, we know that it continues to work during a pandemic when first thought potentially for practices may be that it's really bringing in the folks that can't afford the exam right now, but we know that they're actually decent clients. They are going to come back and it's going to lead to overall performance and increases in revenue for the practice. To fully understand the success of a promotional offer, a new client offer, whether it's a free first exam or anything of that nature, it's imperative that you leverage digital tools to gain insights into your consumer behavior and to know what marketing promotions are working for your practice and what aren't. So tools like call tracking will give you exact new client opportunity numbers, which is especially critical in print marketing. So if you're a practice that is still relying very heavily on good old-fashioned print marketing, the only way that you're really going to fully understand the return on investment through that marketing piece is through call tracking. We utilize landing pages and Google Analytics to also give us valuable data on user behavior and whether or not clients are actually taking advantage of these promotional offers or new client offers and coming to your practice. Data aggregation and visualization tools like our Pulse dashboard also allow you to better track top-level practice performance metrics to better understand, again, in your practice, which marketing efforts are successful and bottom line, what's bringing more money and more clients to your practice. And as part of our continuing COVID support for the industry in the community, we're still offering 3 free months of our Pulse dashboard. So I just wanted to throw this in there. If you haven't seen it yet, This is going to help your practice get a better understanding of the true health of your practice performance now and post-COVID. So you can actually get your free 3 months risk-free, no strings attached. If you just go to ivet360.com and navigate from there, you can request your free connection to our Pulse dashboard and take advantage of that for the next few months heading out of the coronavirus crisis. And finally, this brings us to our fifth and final pillar of that post-COVID marketing success, which is community. How are you going to engage your community in the post-COVID landscape to create value for your practice? And when we say community here, we're referring to both new or prospective clients as well as your existing client base. As a practice owner and a manager, you probably already know the loyalty of your current client base is a key factor in the success and the growth of your practice. The time, effort, and money it takes to retain clients is far less than it is to acquire new ones. So make sure that you are investing time in really growing and nurturing that current client base in addition to new client acquisition marketing efforts. Really, as a practice owner, you should understand the know, like, trust concept, which you've likely heard about before. It's really a fundamental concept that really runs any business operation. And it's helpful in better understanding how to engage your community and really is the fundamental basis and what drives success of that free first exam program. So in the know, like, trust concept, first off, you need to get known. Introduce yourself to the market. Have a strong digital presence. We talked about that already, that searchability quotient. Be targeted in your approach and marketing efforts as well. You don't need to be known by everybody. You just need to be known by the right people, the right consumer. We know that the average client for a typical general practice lives anywhere from 3 to 5 miles away from the practice. But for specialty hospitals, exotic care services, or services like boarding and grooming, that could be anywhere upwards of 30 miles away, depending on where your current clients are. So make sure you focus your targeting on your marketing. It doesn't make sense to spend money to target to an entire city or a whole state when you likely will not pull clients from that far away. Once you're known, the next step is to be likable. Make sure that your hospital's voice is real, it's authentic. Your blog posts and social presence should be unique and engaging. You should have two-way conversations with your clients and your community, and especially now, be relevant and not tone deaf with your communications. Be visible in the community and be generous and supportive if you can. And finally, the last piece is building trust. You build trust by being consistently good at what you do. You're good at patient care and you have excellent client service. Share client testimonials on your website. Monitor your online reputation and respond to both positive and negative reviews. And sometimes it pains us, but apologize when you need to, and sometimes apologize publicly. Give your clients a reason to come back to you year after year to build that trust quotient. One of the biggest components of earning client trust comes from your patient and client care from within the practice, and that is the solidity of your team. And another tool that can help you train and develop and unify your team towards that common goal of providing excellent client service is our learningvet.com platform. So this is just another quick reminder that we are offering a free trial for learningvet.com right now. 3-day free trial. All you have to do is send us an email. This is ideal for practice managers to explore instructional videos that can help you develop a really cohesive team that works together to optimize client experience and maximize your practice operations. So in courses here include leadership series specifically for practice managers, modules on phone skills, converting new clients, treatment plan presentations, dealing with difficult clients and communication styles, and a whole bunch of other. Plus, there are over 40 online courses that are either RACE approved or VHMA approved for CE credit. So I encourage you guys to check this out, especially now with staff returning to the hospital from furlough. You may have staff that are working on special projects, or looking for opportunities to learn. So if they have some extra time on their hands, there's no better time than to invest in staff training and development. Check out learningvet.com, and when you're ready to get started, just send us a quick email to hello@learningvet.com. Okay. Heading out of COVID, it's also going to be important to take action to engage your community with really strong education content and social media engagement. One of the things that you'll want to do is really to promote referral and loyalty programs to lean on the biggest champions of your practice, which are your most loyal clients. You want to focus on compliance with a really robust client communication strategy. Part of this is making sure that you have access to these folks. If you have a reminder platform with an app and nobody's using it, then it's not effective. So you want to make sure that you are communicating these tools that you have to your clients to maintain at least a 40% adoption user rate with your reminder platform, and no less than a 70% email capture rate in your practice management system. This will help guarantee that you are able to connect with your clients in a communication space, again, that they prefer at a higher rate. You also want to look at sending out dedicated compliance communications to re-engage your client base. Let's see, reintroduce your clients to underutilized or differentiating services. So chances are you may have seen some new clients come through in the mix during the pandemic. So you want to introduce them and also reintroduce old clients or existing clients to some of these service pieces that they may not necessarily know that you offer, or even promote underutilized services that were hardest hit during the pandemic, like boarding, grooming, and daycare. And finally, be open to new world communication. You want to incorporate video into your social strategy if you can. At-home pet tips or tricks, special messages from the doctors or staff. Video is key on social, and it has engagement factors that are far more than just traditional posts and content on your social media. So with all the iPhones and Android phones and everything that we have going on, you basically have a studio in your pocket, and taking high quality video is now easier and more efficient than it ever was before. Okay, so putting it all together in a nutshell, practices need to be nimble and agile, and in some cases make some pretty radical changes to stay competitive in the market now and post-COVID. These 5 pillars are going to help you focus your efforts heading out of the pandemic and really position your practice for success to face this new normal that we're all going to experience together. Again, make sure that you are prioritizing your client safety, that you are adhering to your safety protocols, and more importantly, that you are quickly communicating these changes to your clients. You want to be nimble, be flexible, stay ahead of that competition. Don't waste time being reactive. Plan now for a proactive approach, and I promise you it will pay off later. Adapt to the shift in consumer behaviors and make sure that your practice is more accessible for clients now more than ever. Embrace change in technology. Don't let it be a hindrance. Let data drive your decision making to really understand what works for your practice and what doesn't. And lastly, develop that trusted relationship with consumers and focus on engaging your clients. We have compiled a simple marketing success checklist that you can download and use as a guide to ensure that you're utilizing the tools and practices that we talked about today. And again, you can download this PDF in the handouts tab of the webinar control panel. And again, it will be available for download along with the slides and sent out via email to our registrants. Okay. Questions and answers. So we had a few questions that came through from the registrants, which are actually questions that I'm hearing quite a bit from clients and other hospitals across the country. We do have a few of them here, and then we'll take a look to see if any other questions came through that we can answer from the chat feed that Drew was working on. But one of the questions that we are hearing now is, how do we hold on to these new clients that came to visit us because their old clinic was closed? And some of these strategies we already talked about. But beyond providing exceptional patient care and client service, that is a given. The key here is to really effectively integrate these new clients into your community and client engagement and communication strategy, right? We want to get them into the system. You want to make sure that you have all of their contact information captured, especially cell phones and email. You want to make sure that they are actively using your communication tools, including reminder platforms and pet care apps. Most apps, if you're using one out there, or reminder platforms, have integrated communications built into the system that will either automatically send a notice to new clients encouraging them to download the app and use the system, or maybe it's manual, you just need to pop the new client information in the system and send that to them as well. Post-COVID client communications should also make sure that you're circling back to your differentiators again, and key service points to really educate new clients on what makes your practice stand apart from your competitors. You can also consider sending new client virtual welcome packets via email that cover your service points and maybe even offer discounts or promotions on certain services like laser therapy packages, boarding, daycare, or grooming services that new clients may not necessarily know that you guys offer. Question number 2, and this is also a question that we hear a lot. How useful really is a pet care app when our clients already have a pet portal on our website that gives them access to their pet records and the ability to schedule appointments online? You guys know this already, but technology has really changed the way that clients are interacting with the veterinary industry and with your practice. If you stop for a moment to take a look out in your lobby when there were actually clients in there at one point, most likely, most of the time, you'd see them all sitting on their phone. And we know that more than 80% of your clients use smartphones, right? Which they check on average 150 times a day. We also know that folks typically read 98% of the text messages or push notifications that come to their phones, and that they spend far more time on their smartphones and tablets than they do on their home computers. And when they're on their tablets and phones, 86% of the time, they're using native apps and not their phone web browser. So having a pet care app literally puts your practice and your voice right in the pocket of your clients, as opposed to client portals, where they actively require clients to search for them and remember the login credentials. We also know that on average, online pet portals have about a 70% one-time login rate, which means that clients typically get their information, set it up, log in once, and never use it again. So conversely, pet care apps actually encourage clients to be more engaged in their pet care, especially if you're using a pet care app that has a built-in loyalty program, which will increase compliance, and push reminders we know are proven to significantly reduce no-shows and cancellations and increase that compliance. Plus, we've seen with coronavirus again, pet care apps are having the opportunity to have communication right at the fingertips of your clients, gives you a quicker and more efficient means to really communicate with your clients in times of urgency or crisis. But again, the key is user adoption rates. Pet care apps are only effective if you promote them and encourage your clients to actually use them. Question number 3. Boarding and daycare is a large part of my practice and has been hit particularly hard during COVID-19. How do I know when it's time to reopen these services, and how can I really promote them heading out of the pandemic? This is a big question. One of the most common that we've seen, especially where boarding, daycare, and grooming make up a significant portion of practice revenue. First off, the short answer is to really reopen these services when you need them. Clients will be looking for boarding services when they have someplace to go. Plus, you need to balance potential income from reopening these services with the cost of staffing to adequately maintain the service, especially if you're looking at needing to bring back staff to the practice to offer these services again. When to reopen these services is going to vary by community, but with the summer months coming up and people eager to get out of their house and being cooped up for several months, it's going to be a good time to push boarding services once people again start to get up, get out, and start to travel. Again, this is going to vary by community, so I encourage you to monitor local and regional trends in the travel and hospitality industry in your area to get a better gauge of client interest in boarding services. So look for an increase in advertising for weekend getaways, or the mountains are calling, or the beach is calling. Local destinations will start to push to recoup their revenue as well, and this might be an indicator for you of when boarding services may again be needed and heavily utilized. You also may want to consider promoting daycare services as part of new puppy care packages for your services that include both veterinary and behavior socialization recommendations. So in this wave of new pet adoptions, this is a good opportunity to reach out to new dog and puppy owners to talk about not only the benefits of starting pets off on the right foot in terms of the veterinary care, but also behavioral as well. So if you have daycare options, this is a good time to promote that as a socialization recommendation for new pets. Again, you want to introduce new clients and reintroduce existing clients to your boarding and daycare services when they officially reopen. So again, consider looking at special offers for first-time users, like free first night of boarding or free first day of daycare. That includes both new and existing clients. You also want to make sure you promote boarding and daycare services with dedicated digital ads. So separate from your veterinary services. So if you're doing digital advertising like Google Ads, setting them up separately will allow you to do different targeting for your veterinary services and for your boarding, grooming, and daycare services. So typically we know that targeting for basic veterinary services should be anywhere from about 3 to 10 miles around your practice, knowing that the average client lives about 3 to 5 miles away from your practice. But for boarding, daycare, and grooming services, that potentially can be expanded to 20 or 30 miles, depending on your market and the local competition in your area. Also, it'll be good to really actively promote your boarding add-on options when your services reopen. So pets have had a lot of one-on-one time with their people since stay-at-home orders were activated. And it's likely that clients are going to be more receptive to certain add-on features like extended playtimes or additional one-on-one walks or TLC time, or whatever it is that you offer to your boarding staff, knowing that their pets are going to get the same special attention and adoration that they've grown quite accustomed to over the past several months. Again, we've seen this and heard this too, so some practices are also considering requiring a bath before pets go home to ensure that they're not bringing home any germs or viruses that they may have encountered during their boarding or daycare stay. And as with your veterinary services, make sure that you're clearly stating any of these COVID-19 protocols that are carrying over into your boarding and grooming and daycare when it opens, including staff wearing PPE, washing hands thoroughly before interacting with each boarding guest, etc. Okay, we are just about up at the end of our time. That's what we've got for you today. I appreciate you guys tuning in and joining for the webinar. We know that you still have a lot going on with your practices right now, and I hope that you have found this webinar and our previous webinars to be helpful and valuable and just a good use of your time. So as always, we've recorded this webinar, and the recording, the slides will be available at our COVID-19 resources page no later than tomorrow morning. And be sure you stay tuned to that resources website as well. We continue to post information to help your practice through what is hopefully coming up to the end of this crisis. We also will have additional marketing specific webinars to come to be sure that so be sure that you watch the site and sign up for those when they become available. Our general marketing email address is there on the screen. If you have any specific questions regarding the content today, we'd love to hear any feedback as well on how we can improve these webinars and make them more valuable. So please give us a shout out. Let us know what we can do for you. Thank you so much for everybody. We know that this is sometimes a thankless job for you guys, and we are very appreciative. You have our utmost respect and admiration. A lot of people are at the end of their COVID rope right now, so hang in there, stay safe. Thanks again, and tune in next time.